Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Leandra Tricoros, and I am the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Administrator in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Lunch and Learn. May is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, where we take the time to celebrate the contributions, histories, and cultures of AAPI individuals and communities. I would like to take the time to thank Commissioner John O'Grady, Commissioner Kevin Boyce, and Commissioner Erica Crawley, as well as County Administrator Kenneth Wilson for their continuous support. I have the great pleasure of introducing Anh Thu Thai, Executive Director of Ohio Asian American Health Coalition. Ms. Thai is from Columbus, Ohio, and has a background in respiratory therapy and has a doctorate in healthcare administration. She currently works at The Ohio State University in research focused on adolescents and mental health. Her former research projects focused on lupus and breast and cervical cancer. She is a member of the American Public Health Association, where she serves as the caucus director for Asian and Pacific Islanders. Her personal interests and professional interests focus on addressing health disparities for Asian Americans, immigrants, and refugees. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am going to turn it over to Ms. Thai so she could please share her wonderful presentation for us.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Leandra, for having me. Again, my name is Anh Thu Thai. I'm the Executive Director of Ohio Asian American Health Coalition. I'm really honored to be here today for the Lunch and Learn to talk about Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So we will just kind of learn more about this. And if you have any questions at the end, my contact will be there. So feel free to email me, reach out to me, ask questions to Leandra, who I know she has the Facebook Live up. So a little bit about AAPI Heritage Month. AAPI stands for Asian American and Pacific Islander. The entire month of May now celebrates the history, culture, and achievements of AAPIs in the US. I wanted to note two important milestones here. I put two dates here, which is May 7th, 1843. There was the first wave of Japanese immigrants that came to America. Although back in the 1500s, the Filipinos came to the America, that was noted in history as well. But, these two dates of the Japanese immigrants in 1843 and then May 10th, 1869 are notable because of the Transcontinental Railroad, which was completed by a majority of Chinese immigrants. And those numbers range from anywhere from 15,000 to about 20,000 immigrants. So very important history about API Heritage Month. I put up the slide here, just some fun facts about API, Heritage Month, a little bit of history. I won't read everything out, but if you can see on the screen here, API used to be only the first 10 days of May. And then eventually it became the entire month of May. So in 2009, the celebration of all of May became about APIs. So I thought it was really interesting to note here that there are about 612,194 Asian-owned businesses. And I thought that was a great number. And even though it might not be up to date right now, that's an enormous amount in the US and will be more, because I know in Ohio, a lot of my friends are opening up more Asian-owned businesses. And that's so important to, teach others about how, leadership and what we can contribute back to our communities and societies. And as you follow along on these fun facts, you can look at the total Asian population. Some of these statistics aren't quite up to date because there is a lot of issues with, Asians not speaking English, and we're not really filling out the forms. So there's a lack and a lot of gap in statistics here. So I just want to make a note of that. So where are Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders from? So there's the Far East to the Southeast Asia to the Indian subcontinents, and I included some examples here, but fun fact here, there are 48 Asian countries. So there's a lot of countries to know. I'm not going to Google all that for you, but if you want to look it up, feel free to. The Pacific Islanders here, I listed out some of these continents and countries here for you to look at as well. So very interesting facts. You know, I myself don't know exactly all of the countries here, but the majority of the countries that we work with are like China, Japan, Malaysia, Korea, India, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam. I'm Vietnamese myself, and the Philippines. Again, this chart here, this pie graph here shows some numbers. It's not up to date. You know, this is 2012, but it's so hard to find statistics and numbers on Asian Americans. It's because there's just a gap in the process of Asians, you know, recording their numbers and understanding the literature behind, or the importance of, you know, voicing themselves and making them known to United States. So recording their numbers is, again, very hard because of the gap in, you know, health literacy, and understanding literature, understanding English, and getting those numbers out there. So some fun facts here. I don't know if, you know, you guys can read along here, but the most notable one I wanted to notify is that in Ohio, Tina Maharath is known for the first Asian American woman to be elected into public office. So I'll let you kind of take a few moments to read along this slide here, but it's really interesting. You know, there's Asian Americans out there making, you know, a voice for our community, but it's overshadowed, and, you know, many times, especially during the pandemic. So things happening in Columbus right now. I don't know if you know, but Asian Restaurant Month is happening. So support your local Asian-owned restaurants. A lot of my friends go to like Huli Huli, Hai Poke. I'm just naming off a few of the ones that we go to. You know, there's a lot of sushi restaurants, Tensuke. Oh, I love Tensuke for their sushi. I go there probably once a week to eat sushi, to grocery shop. Cam is so well known now. They're on the Hilliard off of Mill Run. Sunrise Markets, again, go to these local Asian-owned businesses, support them. We need it. They're great. They're great resources to the community. Talk to the owners, talk to the managers, people who work there. They have amazing stories to share about where they come from and what they do for the community, particularly here in Columbus, Ohio. There's events going on May 3rd, May 10th. I wanted to highlight May 21st. There's the Columbus Dragon Boat Race here in Columbus this weekend. So if you want to see some fun action that's happening in Columbus right now, go to it. Which will then lead to May 27th and 28th, which is the Memorial Day weekend Asian Festival at Franklin Park Conservatory. It is such a great event because there will be like dancing, you know, art, there will be food. So there will be the health pavilion, which I help plan. Although this year I just came back from maternity leave, so I will not take that much credit for it, but we work so hard to provide free health screenings for the Asian community here in Columbus, Ohio, and really all over Ohio. There's so many people that go there just for their yearly health screenings, which I'm so used to going to see my, you know, my doctor once a year. But if I need her, then I just go see her whenever. But here, these free health screenings are an opportunity for people who don't have those type of resources to go and get their free health screening. So, and that includes mental health screenings, which I'll talk about a little bit later during any questions that we have about the Ohio Asian American Health Coalition. So that's just a quick slide before we discuss, but my contact is here. Feel free to email me. My information is also on the Ohio Asian American Health Coalition website.
Thank you so much for that high-level overview. It's just great to see the fun facts, and it's so interesting to find out the local events that are happening where many of us may not know. So to lead into our discussion, what are ways that we can celebrate and stand in solidarity with the AAPI community?
So I don't know if you know, but the theme for May 2023 this year is advancing leaders through opportunities. And so that's about, creating opportunities for others to lead and to serve, focus on immigrant populations and, drive progress. We're trying to close the disparities here. So for the community to help celebrate and stand with them, little things as, like I said, support your local Asian owned businesses, go to these restaurants, go to these groceries, get to know people, learn about different cultures, Vietnamese restaurants, there's so many bakeries now that's open recently, like down by the campus, Tensuke again, there's Bell's Bread, Golden Delight, which has been around for so long now. They're known for their strawberry cakes. So, go to these places, try it. Other things you can do is some of my friends have done in the past, like tea tastings. Host a tea tasting in your house, learn about the different types of teas and, what they do for your health. Visit museums. There's so many museums now that offer opportunity to learn about API Heritage Month. And a lot of them are now virtual. So, hey, we're in Ohio, but sign on to the museum in San Francisco, California, and, walk through it and learn about what they have to offer there. Even Washington, D.C., so many events going on right now that you could attend virtual. So, celebrate and stand in solidarity with API month by doing these things. So yeah, thank you for asking that question. It's a great question.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. If you could please provide information about the Ohio Asian American Health Coalition and what is the benefits of membership?
So Ohio Asian American Health Coalition, we are here to support the community to address health disparities. We also support the health initiatives, our 8 member organizations right now, which again are listed on our website. I have it on the other screen here, but for example, Asian Festival, that's one of our member organizations. Our biggest event is happening on May 27th, 28th, Memorial Day weekend, to offer a little bit about culture, history, food, the little bit of festivities like dancing. So that will be there. AACS, that's another one of our organizations, Asian American Community and Service. So they offer things like programs like the HAY, Healthy Asian Youth. So those are opportunities to work with children, for children, resources to tutor, just after school programs, really, like, field trips. So these member organizations, they do so many great things for the community here, particularly focused on Asians who don't know where to go to find resources, especially in their languages. Yes, everything is in English, but where can we go to find, resources in Vietnamese, Cambodian, Lao? So all of these organizations are part of the coalition, and we're here to help support each other and provide awareness and all throughout Ohio. So
that is absolutely awesome. Thank you so much. If you could, and you touched on it briefly, but could you discuss the social inequities that contribute to the disparities in the API community? I believe you mentioned the lack of data because there's not really a translation available and lack of records. Could you please touch on that a bit more?
Yes, there is a lack of data. There's a lack of resources out there, but that's why we're here. Asian Services in Action, they're in Cleveland and Akron. They are great resources. For an example, they provide a lot of different resources and different translations. You can go on their website, and even if you email some of their staff and their board members, they are so quick to respond. There's Legislative Day, Advocacy Day coming up here on May 23rd, and I will be there to support their event as well. But some of the things that they're doing is to, include API history in schools. Something new, right? And wouldn't that be great to see that in a history lesson and to learn about, things like, the railroad. Those are things that don't really recall learning in my time in school. So that would be cool if my kids learn that. Just things like, also we're trying to form a commission on API affairs. So those are some things we're trying to advocate and raise awareness on. So I wanted to also mention there is a All of Us research program. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's a federally funded initiative. And the point is to bring diversity and to diversity to research. Just because research out there is this is like a less than a small percentage of Asians included into research, right? So by including diversity into research, we can learn about the background, the history, and the lifestyle of Asian Americans, and that contributes to, prevention and medicine and treatment for the future. So these are just important things to address.
Yes, thank you so much for highlighting that. That was very helpful information.
Yeah.
Are there local resources to assist and support families in Franklin County, AAPI families, children, with whether it's housing, food security, things of that nature?
Yeah, so kind of like rewinding a little bit, but those 8 member organizations, they offer all those resources. I want to also share the Bhutanese Nepali community of Columbus. They're also one of the organizations that we work with, ACS, the HAY program. So all of these member organizations provide resources about, like housing, just for families and children to know about if they need access to.
Absolutely awesome.
And again, I want to highlight that there are resources in their languages if people do need access to that. So.
Oh, okay. Now, is that something where they would call for the information requesting a translator? What does that look like?
Yeah, so if they need help with that, again, because we all work together, we're all, we're all members with each other, and the coalition, that's what we do. We help support them. They can contact me, and I can contact one of their community leaders, or they can contact the community leaders themselves through the websites, which I know can be inconvenient. So again, that's why I'm here. And other member organizations are here. We're here to provide those resources right away with the help of technology too.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you so much. If you could please, could you share how the rise of hate crimes against Asian American and Pacific Islanders have had an effect on the community? I believe you mentioned it earlier during COVID. If you could please expand on that.
Yeah, so Dr. Cora Munoz and Dr. Cora Munoz is actually the president of the Ohio Asian American Health Coalition. We just spoke about this not too long ago, but AAPI hate is such a serious problem in our community. It's been a problem since the pandemic, and if not, it has the issue has continued to rise within our community. And it continues to happen. And as you know, what we see in the news, most of the cases happen in New York, California, Florida, a little bit from Florida, but not that much, but anywhere but Ohio, right? But it does happen in Ohio, and we don't hear about it. And why is that? Is because Asians don't like to cause trouble. We like to keep to ourselves. We don't like to voice about our issues, especially like, the older populations, the elderly populations. They don't like to talk about it. They like to keep it to themselves. And unless it's extremely harmful, then they will maybe say something. But there's a lot of hesitation. There's a lot of fear associated with API hate. So things like, calling names, vandalizing, spitting. Those are things that you've heard in the news, things that happen in Ohio, but again, we don't hear about it because people are scared to talk about it. Shootings. I don't know if you've heard of the shooting that happened in Cincinnati recently, that was in the news. So though it has to elevate to that severity to be in the news, but again, only in Ohio. Maybe it, finally made its way around the country. But again, things in Ohio, we just don't hear about it is because people are scared. So.
Wow. And thank you so much for touching on that, especially in regards to the fear aspect. Is it is it mistrust as well, maybe combining that, which I would say also ties into what we discussed with the statistics. If it's not being reported, and of course that's greatly affecting, and we're only seeing a fraction.
Right, right. I mean, there's definitely the trust issue, especially in the Asian community. That's why we have these, these gatekeepers that we call them. They're community leaders. For each community, there's somebody there that acts as, the leader that you would heard of, as you get to know more about what the coalition does, what the 8-member organizations do. We try to talk about the issues surrounding API hate, and we try to offer trainings, as bystanders. As nowadays, everything is on TikTok, everything is being recorded on phones. And why is that? Why aren't people doing anything about that? But they're recording it, they're uploading it to social media. So there are trainings now, even virtually, we can, train people what to do if you're standing there and you see something that's happening or about to happen. What can we do if you're scared and you don't want to intervene right away? So again, those are just things that we need to talk about, we need to raise awareness about, and we really need to encourage people to do is to report it, to talk about it, and don't be scared, because there are resources, there are people out there that are brave enough to help out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we will ensure that those resources are located in the comments so that they can be accessed later. We definitely want to make sure that we have everything available so our residents can see the resources readily available, as you noted, and ensure that we can pass that word along. So thank you for sharing that information.
Yeah, and we really appreciate you share those resources too.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. And this is a tad bit redundant, but I was thinking about our statistics. Is there any data or statistics that demonstrate the discrimination and unfair treatment that has been experienced in the community?
I know. I wish I could help report more on these statistics. Again, Dr. Cora Mooney and I, we were just talking about statistics. I'm like, where are these numbers? Why are these numbers so old? It's just even, I don't want to keep referring to the Asian Festival, but the Asian festivals, we were trying to find numbers, and it's so hard because people don't like to report it. And also there is a gap with English. So if people don't know how to speak English, how are they going to fill out forms to document numbers? So again, there is just so many issues and such a lack of data in numbers. So I'm so sorry, but I can't really provide the proper answer there, but that's all we can find is just old data. And again, we're trying to encourage people to get out there and, voice themselves, contribute to API data so that we can have these numbers for the future, so that people like me aren't sitting here saying, hey, I'm sorry, there's not enough data. What can we do about it? So.
Right. Yeah, and that's an excellent point, especially when you think about the census information. There's a serious lack there, and so are you aware or not, but has that been channeled up in legislation to really put it out there and say, we don't have the information we need because there's a barrier? Is there anything in progress to address it, or things that we can do to start addressing that?
Well, I mean, we're working on it. I do know that we are working on it, especially our organizations. I mean, we're really trying to close that gap and again, encourage people to get out there, learn about what's going on in your community, not just others. I mean, just learn about what's going on with, your community, go out there, represent it, make a number for yourself. It's important. So.
Absolutely, yes. And thank you. And that really is a great way to lead into our next question, because there's so much work we can all help do. What can we do now to speak out against the hate crimes and other advocacy actions that we can take to encourage others to do the same?
Yeah, so there are so many toolkits online that are
Hmm.
available. There are a lot of resources. There are a lot of training sessions that people can do, even if it's just like a 30-minute training for, you know, how to act when you do see a hate crime happening. I would encourage people to do that, to learn, to sign up for these trainings, because you might think that you know what to do, but when it happens, do you really know what to do? And, how do you get your mind to train itself to act right away? And I think that's what's important right now, is to train people to act on spot right away. Get your mind, it's like exercising. You can't, things just don't happen right away. Growth doesn't just happen. It takes time and it takes practice. It takes effort. So that's all I can say there is, there are resources and people just have to take it, to accept it.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm curious, and this leads into another question with those trainings. Are there things that employers and schools can do to demonstrate support for the AAPI community?
Again, what we're doing right now is exactly a great example of what people can bring to their workplace, is these things like lunch and learns. Invite someone from any of these organizations to come out and to speak and share about what's going on in the AAPI community. That's a great start, is again, just bring in people to talk about it and have a discussion like what we're doing right now, not necessarily present, but just to talk about like, hey, what do you know about, AEPI issues? What do you know about, Asian hate crimes? Do you know about it? So that's a good start, just to talk and to get to know one another.
Awesome, awesome. And then also, I would guess employee resource groups, if that would be an excellent idea as well,
Yeah. And
to foster
also,
that sense of community.
yeah. And I want to also highlight, at OSU, I'm also in a book club. If you want to start a book club, that's a good example too. Something fun, it's not so serious, but to talk about the serious facts that's going on. Host a book club, listen to
Okay.
podcasts, things that we can start on our own for work. I know my husband had a podcast back when he was at Nationwide, and it was just saying it encouraged conversation, and that's what really needs to happen to improve what's going on in our community. So not just API, but everywhere, right? Anything to encourage conversation, to talk about it, to create ideas of how to improve the future. So I think that is a good start, and that's a great question.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Are there any, like, everyone's into Netflix and streaming these days? Are there any important documentaries we need to see and other resources that we could locate to really highlight and learn more about AAPI?
Yes, I mean, Netflix has so many documentaries out there, and I actually did write a few things down that I liked. I don't know if you've heard of And Then They Came for Us, just because, there's two important milestones that I noted in the presentation, about the Japanese immigrants that came over here in, the 1800s, but And Then They Came for Us is a great documentary. The American Revolutionary, that's I don't know if you've watched that or heard of it as well, but it's about Grace Lee Boggs, and she is a writer, and she actually lived till she was 100, which is amazing. It's incredible, and it's rare to see someone live for so long and see so much throughout her life. So that's a good one. There is also one called Curtain Up that it's about elementary school kids. And just like we were talking about before this, but kids, they grow up so fast, but they go through so much in such a little time. So that documentary highlights their point of views. And it's actually about them going through, growing up, but it's them um, trying to act out the Frozen. I don't know. So the Frozen movie. So anyways, besides that, but it's more about, they going through life and exploring their identity. and it's based in New York. So, in New York, there's just so much going on. So how do they see themselves as an Asian American, at that young age, what they're going through in their daily lives, their culture, understanding where they come from is important, and really just the heartbreaks of growing up, right? That's, you go through so much. You're exploring yourself as an Asian American, especially at that young of age. So how to form a foundation for your child. So
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for highlighting that, because it does take me to a thought of the lack of history and teaching that in schools. Well, how do the children learn and grow and develop and get that sense of self?
So you're saying, like, how have they learned about Asian culture in school?
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Well, I know that right now, from my personal point of view and my sister, there really hasn't been any, culture, Asian culture incorporated. And I think that's what's going to be important on May 23rd with Asia, is to advocate for that, is to bring in the Asian culture in history into kids learning a curriculum. That way we know about what's going on, because what students like my sister have learned is from their families, from
Ah,
family experiences, from my grandparents, their stories. So I think what we learn is pretty much what we hear from our own family members, and it shouldn't be that case. We should be able to bring those stories and those experiences into textbooks and see that, hey, there are so many other people that have gone through the same things like we have. So
mhm. Absolutely, yes. And thank you so much for sharing your lived experience, because it's so helpful. I think it's easy for us individually to get in these silos where we think it's just me, it's just happening here. But that's how we build the community, is when we come together and say, no, we've all experienced this, and here's how we can help each other. So
mhm.
thank you so much for sharing that. That is important. Um, Earlier, you mentioned, and in your work experience, addressing health disparities. Would you mind sharing what are the health disparities that affect the AAPI community?
So besides the lack of resources on where to
Right.
find, yeah. So again, there are so many issues in, having access to quality care. And that's
Ah,
why
okay.
events like the Asian Festival, that is an opportunity for Asian Americans all around Ohio to come to these 2 days and get screened, whether it's like a glucose check, mental health screenings, which is such a big issue right now in the Asian community. Dr.
Mm,
Cora Munoz talks about mental health. She's an expert in that field, and that's her passion. And one of the things that we're working on is mental health screenings. And our goal right now is to screen at least 250 people for mental health screening. So I think that I think those type of issues, like lack of
mhm,
resources to healthcare, are something that we need to pinpoint. And we need to help people figure out a better way to find a doctor that can like accommodate to these people's lifestyles in a sense, because
mhm.
people, like, even in my family, we work till late hours, nail salons, they don't close till like 7, 8, 9. How can they find healthcare? So what is the best way? Is the answer, clinics opening later? What about clinics on weekends? And people, like in the Vietnamese community, have to look for those things that are open on the weekends, free health screening. So we need to close the gap, close those issues, and address those disparities, and establish a better way for people to access those resources.
Yes, and I'm very glad you touched on especially mental health, because May is also mental health awareness.
Correct.
So really just breaking that stigma and letting everyone know it is okay to not be okay, but we want you to have the tools and resources to be okay.
Correct.
So I'm so happy you touched on that. And with the festival resources, does it also put in place where there's follow-up care if needed, or anything else in those resources to be highlighted?
There is follow-up care, which is really interesting. Is what's really interesting about those health screenings at the Asian Festival is we're also working with, there will be like physicians who volunteer their time to sit there and talk to, people who need it. So they'll, to offer their expertise and, people that need questions about their health that we, so my background's in respiratory therapy, but I can't completely, help diagnose the issue or, offer my expert because my focus is only on the lungs. But there will be doctors there who can talk to people who need it. And then if follow-up care is needed, then, there are resources to do so. There's going to be people there to collect information. If you need help, then there's going to be help moving forward past the Asian Festival health screenings.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That is awesome. I'm very glad to hear that. And thank you for ensuring. We definitely want to make sure our residents know that you can go get your health screening, but it doesn't have to end there. The care continues. So
Yes.
That is so fantastic.
And with the member organizations, from Dayton to Akron to Cleveland to Cincinnati, there are always events going on that offer free health screenings, free healthcare resources, like where to go, who to talk to. If you don't have health insurance, if you don't have a primary care provider right now, what to do in that case. So there are free clinics that are open, the Asian Health Clinic that's open to people that all hours of the day, I think. So weird times, but it's good times for that work with the Asian community and their working hours. So there are resources, there are people, there are things going on, and we are doing our best to get the word out there about these resources and events for the community.
Oh, absolutely awesome. I love that. And definitely, as you said, even before, about just the online toolkits we can get. And I want to touch back on training. If a business organization were interested in training, is that something they could reach in to your agency for? Or what would that look like to have that set up?
Yes, absolutely. You can reach out to the Ohio Asian American Health Coalition. And then what would happen is I can reach out to any of these member organizations. And if someone's interested, which someone always is, we love learning, we love teaching, we love organizing these events. We can bring someone to, a workplace and just talk about it, because there are experts, there are people that volunteer their time, the people that volunteer their time also, have their daily jobs as well. So they could be like a nurse, it could be like a doctor, it could be like a respiratory therapist, it could be like a teacher. So people come from all different backgrounds that are in these 8-member organizations that we work with. So yes, the answer is yes, there will always be training available. We just need to plan it. We just need to pick a day and we will come to you.
Oh, that is awesome. So glad to hear that. Yes.
And I think the benefit of technology is that it can be virtual. It doesn't have to be in person anymore. So it just makes it easier.
Yes. And I think it's one thing we've realized coming out of COVID is that the access we now have, like you said, to do a virtual tour of a museum in a different state and learn more, it definitely has increased that opportunity. So that is fantastic. And I appreciate you for highlighting that.
Yes.
I wanted to go back, if I could, about the theme for this year. I was interested and wanted to learn a bit more. Is there a theme each year to celebrate AAPI month?
Yeah, there's a theme each year. So again, the theme this year is advancing leaders through opportunity. So one of the cool things that I noticed in some of the schools is they kind of like role play. So the kids, even though, the kids at these after school programs, they'll be like, oh, I want to be so-and-so when I grow up. I want to be so-and-so, after college or whatever. So it's again, in these populations we're encouraging leadership. We're trying to show these children, these kids, how to, these special skills when you go out there and you start your life and your career. And for adults, it's just about how, like attend trainings and how to gather your skills, how to highlight what you're good at and contribute to the community, whether that's public speaking, whether that's you being a good teacher, whether that's you, you know, you don't have to speak at all, but maybe you're just you're good at fixing someone. So healing, acupuncture, things like that. There are just so many ways to be a leader and to serve the community. And the theme of this month is to really highlight immigrant populations and encourage them to go out there and show them what you're good at. And show them what your culture, your background, and bring that out into the community. Like, say acupuncture, for instance, that's old medicine from China. To bring that over here to the US, to Ohio, it can be rare. So how can we make that more known here in Columbus, Ohio? Because there's only so few institutes, so few clinics that offer things like acupuncture. So.
Wow, and I'm glad you shared that. That was an educational moment as well. Most of us have
I
heard of
tried to
acupuncture, but
go
don't
find
know.
acupuncture myself, and I realized there's not that many places. I have to drive far to receive acupuncture. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so interesting, and definitely something else that we can look into. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. There was something I wrote down in my notes because I heard it and said, "Oh, wow." Originally, AAPI month was celebrated over a span of 10 days, was it? And then
it was
the month?
Yeah, well, actually, I was looking at the history lesson, but yes, back in I think it was like 1977, the topic of API was brought up, and then I wanted to say it was only the first 10 days of the month, and then I think just over time, it became like a month-long celebration. So yeah, so back in 77, and I think in 2009, so 1992 was a big time, and then 2009 Barack Obama signed like a bill that yes, this is API month. We're recognizing the entire month of May to celebrate culture, history of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. I thought that was so fascinating to know originally have that period of time and then it expanded, which I'm so glad it did.
Yeah, I mean, it also allows us to, host festivals, not just the Columbus Asian festivals, but there's festivals in Cleveland, and the Dayton International Festival just happened earlier this month, and they had such a great outcome. I was speaking to one of the member organizations, the leader, and he said they sold out of food. So the fact that we were able to come out of the COVID-19 pandemic and to have these festivals again in person, to sell out of food, that means people are getting out there. People are hearing about Asian culture and they want to know more about it, and they want to learn more about it, and they want to eat food and learn. So that's great.
Absolutely, yes. Yes. And yes, you mentioned after COVID, we're all ready to get out. So yes, definitely need that.
But there's like
Wonderful.
I said, 48 countries, 48 Asian countries. There's just, that is a huge umbrella. I mean, that really is. There's so many, and there's, I find myself learning about other cultures that, Asian cultures myself, like the Vietnamese, for instance. We're so different from, say, the Japanese. When I went to Japan, I felt like I was just in a totally different world. I learned so much about how they, to act, how to dress, properly. So it really is just really neat to go out there and bring that back to Ohio and learn about it and attend these events, such as all these festivals that's going on right now throughout the month of May.
Yes, and I thank you for highlighting that. That there is a broad array. I think many, because we don't learn really a lot in school about it or growing up, you don't know how much that encompasses. So when we're trying to build the bridges and communities of diversity and coming together, it is so important to take a look and realize, okay, well, this is more expansive than I originally thought.
Yeah, and you're seeing that slowly right now with, fusion. You see that everywhere, especially in Columbus here.
Ah,
We're seeing, I was there was like a food truck out there recently, like it was like was it I think it was like Mexican, Vietnamese or something like that. It was just
oh,
really a
okay.
really cool fusion that I've never heard of. And I was like, this is really neat. And I know some of the
Yeah.
Filipino food trucks, they try to go out there and they branch out and try a little bit different, like Filipino, Mexican food trucks. So just like a little bit of like a little twist on different cultures, I think is really cool. So we're seeing that out there right now, but how do we make more of that? How do we make it and not just like a pop-up, but more of like a restaurant? So what can we do to
Yeah.
do that? So
Oh, that is wonderful. So yes, what would that look like? I wonder, is it maybe a community forum where we can have the local businesses come together and first meet and greet? I think a lot of us don't realize how many
yeah,
different businesses there are out there
yeah,
to be able
that's
to
something I
support.
want to see for sure. That's something I want to see
Yeah.
is for communities to come out because food is a way that we can all communicate together and enjoy each other's company.
Yeah.
So how can we, just for instance, just for an example, maybe something like that to bring into a workplace, bring in like a food truck in there and learn
Hmm.
about the culture, learn about the history of like where food comes from. So
Oh, excellent. I love that idea, by the way. And I agree. Food always brings us together.
I was like, wait, this is gonna be a really good idea for the lunch and learn, right?
Yes, I'm already plotting. That is wonderful. Well, you have given us so much amazing information. And if is acceptable, we will be more than happy to also share your presentation to make sure that those dates for the things happening in Columbus are available for our residents. I did not realize so many awesome things are happening.
Yeah,
Um,
yes.
so,
I mean, again,
yeah,
Asian Restaurant Month also highlight that because there are so
okay.
many new restaurants, bakeries all over Ohio, not just Columbus, but all over Ohio. Places that in Cincinnati that I haven't even been to myself. Lots of bubble tea places. Try those out. It's
Oh,
yeah. Like I know that there's many places opening up on like Bethel Road, around Henderson Road area. So go there, support, 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 support.
absolutely, yes. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Is there anything else you would like to share with us? Um, and again, I just love your presentation because it's just eye opening and has so much amazing facts to it. Is there anything else that we can share with our residents to celebrate?
No, I just want to say maybe next year would be really cool to see you guys out there at the Dragon Boat Race. I feel
Yeah.
very honored to be here today to talk about API Heritage Month. It's really important to talk about it. There's just too many events for me to talk about, to highlight. I feel like I'm sitting here and my mind is moving so fast. There's so much I could share about,
Hmm.
but just not enough time. And there's just too much to share. So
Yes.
get out there, learn about it. Google Columbus API, Heritage Month events, social media, use it. Just take a walk around Columbus and you will see signs, posters. People are really trying to get the word out there about their business. So utilize it.
Awesome. We surely will. Thank you so much for joining us. We will look forward to future collaboration. And thank everyone for viewing and tuning in with us today. You take care, have a wonderful rest of the week, and we will see you next month.
Thank you.
Take care.